You might think that being a photographer in the Wild West is all about the romance of dusty streets, portraits of cowboys, and the innocent smiles of settlers. Forget it. Here, behind the lens, there is no place for art, glory, or hope. Every frame you take is an imprint of pain, filth, fear, and the slow death of what once was called a dream. Your hands smell of silver and decay. What you capture on glass are not faces, but shadows, not happiness, but dying. And no matter how many photographs you take, no matter how many plates you preserve, it all slips away, disappears, turns to dust, along with those who once looked into your camera. Welcome to reality. Here, photography is the last refuge of oblivion. But before we begin, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments which city you are watching from and what time it is for you. It is always interesting to see who has joined us. Now, make yourself comfortable. Let us begin. You arrive in the town of Last Mercy on a Thursday morning, though the name offers little in the way of truth or kindness. The sun is already high, not because the day is late, but because it never truly rests in this part of the world. It burns without affection, aging wood and faces in equal measure. The wind carries a metallic taste, thick with dust and disappointment. Everything here is painted in beige and regret. You are a photographer, not the kind that people admire or even acknowledge. You are not an artist. You are a man with a box, a tripod, and a suitcase of chemicals that smell like rotten eggs and hope gone sour. Your name does not matter. In this town, names are less important than how many teeth you have left or whether you own something worth stealing. You set up your tent at the edge of the main street where the dirt road splits between the saloon and the undertaker's office. Between the two, business is steady. Your tent is made of stained canvas, held together by twine and stubbornness. Inside, it is dim and sticky, with streaks of dried silver nitrate on the floor and a folding chair that moans under weight. You call it a studio because no one else will. By mid-morning, you try to attract customers. Your sign, hand-painted in a style that suggests neither talent nor enthusiasm, reads, "Portraits, Immortality on Glass." $5 if you can sit still. Few bother to read it. Fewer understand what $5 really is anymore. Your first subject is a prospector, old, with a beard like spider webs soaked in lard. He sits in silence, eyes glassy, hands shaking. He has not bathed in a season, perhaps two. He smells like disappointment and pickled onions. You adjust the brass lens, mutter instructions, and tell him not to blink. He does not respond. 3 minutes into the exposure, he slumps slightly forward. You think it is fatigue. When the image is developed, you realize he died sometime between your second and third chemical bath. His portrait is perfect. He is still. You charge the fee anyway. No one argues. The undertaker gives you a discount on a glass plate. By sunset, You have taken three more portraits: a toothless widow in mourning, a saloon girl with a black eye, and a bottle of gin hidden in her dress, a child whose face will never smile again after the fever took his mother and left only ghosts in the walls. All sit in silence. None ask to see the result. You wash your hands in a cracked basin of rainwater and stare at your fingertips burned pale by developer. That night, you sleep in the corner of your tent, wrapped in a coat that used to belong to someone braver. Your pillow is a book you cannot finish, and your blanket smells of sulfur. In the distance, a dog howls. You do not know if it is pain or prayer. You understand both. In the morning, the sun rises again as if nothing has happened. You pour a new batch of collodion. Your hands are already trembling. You travel by mule because no one in their right mind lends a horse to a stranger with a black box and a bottle of poison in his bag. The sun strips the land bare, bleaching bone and branch alike. Days pass with the same dry, clicking rhythm: hooves, wind, breath, and the faint clink of glass plates at your side. The town recedes into legend behind you. Ahead waits a railway camp, the newest scar in the earth. The railway company calls the camp Iron Mile, though the iron is more rust than hope. It is a shifting cluster of tents, wagons, and mud, always in motion, never at peace. You arrive as night settles. Lanterns hang from trees like the last wishes of men who gave up. The smoke of 10,000 fires lingers in the cold dusk. You are not welcome, not truly. A photographer is useful sometimes, but in a place where men are chewed up by progress and spat out in bloody pieces, suspicion is as common as lice. You offer your services to the foreman, a heavy man with hands like sledgehammers and a voice boiled rough in whiskey. He squints at your camera as if it might explode. Eventually, he shrugs. You want pictures? Take 'em. Just do not bother the men, and do not steal nothing. He spits at your feet, a small baptism. You make your camp on the edge of the site. At night, the ground thrums with hammers and curses, the language of iron and sweat. You hear the drunken laughter of Irishmen, the silent shuffle of Chinese workers, the low murmur of men from places you will never see. All of them are bound by hunger and fear, bound tighter than any rail. You photograph what you can. At dawn, the light is merciless, cutting faces into masks of bone and exhaustion. You coax men to sit, to stand, to try and appear alive. Some agree, more out of boredom than vanity. The Irishman named Eamon has a scar from his left cheek to his jaw, pink and raised, a story he will not tell. The Chinese cook, Liang, stands stiff as a fence post, eyes fixed past your head as if staring down the years he has already lost. Sometimes the men ask for portraits to send home. They write letters in trembling hands, words full of lies and bravado. You take the photographs quickly, aware that many will never leave this camp. There is no glass thick enough to hold back the rot that seeps from the ground. Work in the camp is cruel. You watch as men swing hammers until their hands split, as boots turn to tatters, as faces hollow out in the endless wind. Accidents are not rare. One afternoon, you see a boy, perhaps 16, perhaps younger, caught beneath a runaway cart. Bones crack, blood pools, dark as old coffee in the dirt. Men gather in silence, hats in hand. You raise your camera, but the foreman stops you with a look. This is not a memory anyone wishes to keep. You retreat to your tent that night, hands stained with silver and guilt. You drink cheap whiskey to quiet the ache in your knuckles and the taste of copper on your tongue. Sometimes you hear the men whisper about you in languages you cannot understand. They think your box steals souls, that each photograph is a nail in the coffin. You do not argue, perhaps it is true. Rain comes on the third day. It is not a blessing. The ground dissolves into a pit of mud, swallowing boots and hope in equal measure. Your tent sags, water dripping through every seam. Chemicals spoil. You curse softly, then louder, as a bottle of developer shatters in your hand. The smell clings to you, acrid and metallic. You are marked. On the fifth morning, a man is brought to you with a fresh wound across his cheek, a split from a drunken brawl, red and raw. He insists on a photograph before the blood clots. You prop him up against a stack of sleepers, pose his hands so the gash is visible. He grins with half his teeth. You count them, 7 on the top, 3 on the bottom. You take the picture. Later, he will die of infection. You develop the plate anyway. Food in the camp is scarce. You trade a portrait for a tin of beans, another for a slab of salt pork. Once, a Chinese worker gives you a single orange in exchange for a photograph of his brother, who has already vanished down the line. The fruit is bitter and hard, but you eat it slowly, savoring each bite as if it were the last thing you will ever taste. At night, fires burn low. The men sing sometimes, sad songs, fierce songs, songs from across the sea. Their voices drift through the dark, carried by the wind, until they sound like prayers or curses. You sit outside your tent, camera on your lap, staring at the stars that do not care who lives or dies beneath them. On the seventh day, there is an explosion on the tracks. Dynamite meant for the rock face detonates early. You are far enough away to avoid the blast, but close enough to hear the screams. Bodies are dragged from the rubble, faces unrecognizable. The foreman shakes his head, wipes his brow, and tells you not to take pictures. You do not argue. There are things that even glass should not remember. You spend the next morning developing plates in silence. Your hands are stained black to the wrists. You try not to think of the faces you have captured, the ones you have lost, the names you never learned. The camera grows heavier every day. The chemicals run low. The men stop coming for portraits. You leave Iron Mile at dawn. mule laden with what is left of your fragile cargo. The railway camp fades behind you, a scar that will be swallowed by time and dust. You walk away, hands still stained, mind still haunted by the faces of men who never wanted to be remembered. The road stretches ahead, empty and unforgiving. You are a photographer. This is what you do. You move forward, carrying stains that will never wash out. You reach the border fort after a journey that eats a full week out of your calendar and a few more years from your soul. The world on this side of the Iron Line is empty in a way that only land can be when it is claimed by men with rifles and too much paperwork. The grass grows thin. The wind howls like a mother searching for a child. It smells of old blood and boot leather. The fort itself is neither large nor impressive. It is little more than a ring of sharpened logs around a handful of battered wooden buildings, their roofs patched with tar, hope, and animal skins. The air inside the walls is thick with smoke and secrets. The only thing taller than the watchtower is the pile of refuse behind the stables, a monument to everything left over, unwanted, unfinished. You do not want to be here. No one does. But your stomach is empty, and your mule is limping, and the soldiers at the gate are too tired to ask questions. They let you in with a wave, rifles slung carelessly over shoulders. Inside, the only welcome you receive is from the quartermaster, who tells you to keep out of the way and not to die where it will inconvenience anyone. Your tent becomes your world. You set up beside the mess hall, close enough to the fire to warm your hands, but far enough that the men's laughter cannot touch you. The ground is hard. The air tastes like brine. Each night, you listen to boots pounding in the dark and wonder whether you are safer inside the walls or out among the coyotes and the dead. In the morning, you are summoned by the captain. He is a tall man with the face cut from granite and a voice like a spade turning earth. He tells you that you are to make photographs, official photographs, the sort that will be sent back east, where men in offices will pretend to know what is happening at the edge of the world. You are to photograph soldiers, their guns, their horses, and, most importantly, the civilized Indians who have been brought into the fold. You say yes because hunger speaks louder than conscience. Your first subject is a corporal, barely 20, but already lost behind the eyes. He stands rigid in his coat, buttons polished, rifle gleaming. You tell him not to move. He does not flinch, not even when a wasp lands on his cheek. You make the exposure. In the finished plate, he looks like a statue, already halfway to being a ghost. The next day, a group of women from a local tribe are brought into the yard. They are led by a sergeant with a scar the length of his jaw and a sense of humor as dry as the dust. The women wear dresses that do not fit, eyes fixed on a point just above your head. You arrange them in a line, as ordered. The sergeant wants them to look grateful. They do not. One of them, an older woman with braids streaked in gray, spits at your feet. You do not blame her. You photograph them anyway. That is what you do. You freeze their faces on glass, lock them in time, so that someone far away can look and say, "See, we are doing God's work." The women leave without a word. The sergeant laughs and tells you to be careful. Some people believe your camera can steal their souls. You think, if only that were true. A soul would be a light thing to carry, lighter than all this. There are children too, though not many. The survivors are quiet and thin, hands too small for the shovels they are given. One boy, perhaps 8 years old, perhaps older, watches you with steady eyes as you set up your tripod. He does not flinch when the flash goes off. Afterward, he asks in a soft voice if you will send the picture to his mother. You do not know where she is. You say yes anyway. Some days, you are sent outside the fort with a patrol. The world beyond is a ruined place. Ashes and burned wagons, old bones picked clean. The soldiers ride with rifles across their laps, eyes always searching the horizon for an enemy they half believe is already dead. You take photographs of whatever the captain points to, a grave marked by stones, a scalp nailed to a post. The burned out remains of a homestead, its walls black with soot and memory. You are told to document the evidence of victory. You do as you are told. Your hands are steady, but your stomach turns with each exposure. The glass plates pile up, each one a small weight on your conscience, each one a truth twisted by the shadow of power. One evening, you are called to the parade ground. A group of soldiers is gathered around something on the ground. As you approach, you see what it is: a body, stripped to the waist, scalp missing, eyes staring up at a sky that will not answer. The captain tells you to make a photograph for the record. The flash startles the crows perched on the fence. You do not sleep that night. There are lighter moments, or what pass for them. Once you are asked to photograph a wedding, a young private and a girl from the nearest settlement. There are flowers, awkward smiles, a cake baked with more lard than sugar. You take the picture, careful to hide the bruise on the bride's wrist. Afterward, she slips you a coin and asks for an extra print. You wonder if she plans to burn it. The fort is not a place for hope. Men drink themselves to sleep or gamble their pay away. The doctor spends more time digging graves than treating wounds. The walls creak in the wind, as if trying to remember a time before all this. Your chemicals run low, your glass plates dwindle. One day, a runner arrives with news. A group of Indians has surrendered and will be brought in tomorrow. You are told to be ready to make photographs for the newspapers back east. When they arrive, you see only defeat in their faces. The children cling to their mothers. Men stare at the ground. You take the photographs, hands numb, heart colder than the morning frost. When the captain asks if you have enough plates left, you say yes. He nods and tells you to pack your things. The fort no longer needs a photographer. You are free to go. You spend your last night in the tent, listening to the wind scrape against the walls, the slow drip of rain through a hole in the roof. In the morning, You load your mule, wrap your remaining plates and rags, and walk away from the fort without looking back. The world is unchanged. The sky is as wide and empty as ever. The land rolls on, indifferent to the stories carved into its skin. You walk, heavy with glass and the memory of too many faces, each one a silent accusation pressed into silver. You are a photographer. This is your burden. This is your work. You do not remember how many days it takes to reach the next settlement. The calendar becomes useless when all the world is dust and silence, interrupted only by the scraping of your mule's hooves and the weary creak of your camera case. The land blurs between yellow grass, pale sky, and the endless road that seems to fold in on itself, a loop of exhaustion. You arrive in the settlement at dawn, when the air is sharp and thin as a knife. The place does not have a name that anyone cares to remember. The buildings are mostly unfinished, as if the carpenters ran out of nails or hope. A church stands at the center, pale and raw as an exposed bone, its bell long since cracked. Around it are shacks and tents, pressed close for warmth or fear. You see no gardens, only churned mud and the occasional patch of stubborn weeds. This is not a place where people come for new beginnings. It is a place where they are sent or where they end up, having run out of other options. You set up your tent near the edge of the main street. It is the same battered canvas, patched and heavy with the stains of your trade. The chemical bottles rattle together, half empty and leaking fumes that burn your throat. As you unpack, a group of children watch you from a safe distance. Their faces are blank, not curious, but calculating, as if trying to measure how much you might be worth to a hungry man with a knife. Today is a special day, or so they say. Today, the brides arrive. You watch the wagons pull in, 3 of them, all painted the color of old bones. The wheels squeal with the effort. Inside are the women, dressed in whatever white cloth could be found, some in veils, some in shawls. They do not speak as they climb down. They move as if underwater, each one clutching a bundle of possessions to her chest. You count 17 women. None of them smile. The men gather to meet the wagons. They have been waiting for this day as if it were Christmas, though the air is full of something closer to dread than celebration. Some of the men are young, some are old, some are already drunk. Most have scrubbed their faces and smoothed their hair, but the effort is wasted. The stench of the camp lingers, sweat, tobacco, old blood. You're not here for the ceremony, but the minister insists. He wants photographs for posterity, for the records back east. He tells you to capture the moment of joy, though there is none to be found. The women line up in front of the church. You see their faces, pale and tense, eyes fixed somewhere far away. One girl, barely more than 15, clutches the hand of an older woman, her mother, or maybe just someone who has not yet given up. You arrange the group as best you can, trying to keep the trembling hands and dirty hems out of sight. The minister stands in the middle, a thin man with a voice like sandpaper and hands that shake. He tells the women to look happy, but his order falls flat. You count to 30 in your head as the exposure burns into the glass. The result will show only a blur of faces and shadows. After the group portrait, you are asked to take individual photographs. The women are paired off with the men, sometimes by choice, more often by the drawing of lots. One woman is led away, weeping quietly. Another glares at the ground, jaw clenched tight enough to crack teeth. The men grip their arms as if afraid the brides will vanish before the photograph is taken. One bride stands out. She is taller than the others, with black hair braided down her back and a scar across her left cheek, pale against her sun darkened skin. Her dress is too small, the sleeves ripped at the shoulder. She meets your gaze with eyes full of something cold and sharp. Her husband is a man twice her age, already sweating through his best shirt. He drags her to your tent for a photograph, boasting about her beauty. She does not flinch as you prepare the camera. You tell her to sit, to hold still. Her hands rest in her lap, clenched so hard that her knuckles are white. You focus the lens. She stares straight through you into the darkness behind your eyes. As you pour the developer, she does not move. The husband laughs, making a crude joke. You ignore him. When you lift the plate, you see the photograph. Her face is calm, but her eyes are hard as river stones. A faint shadow on her neck, a bruise already yellowing. You know better than to ask. Later that afternoon, you see her again. She is running. Her dress catches on a fence post, tearing the hem. She keeps going, leaving a trail of white in the mud. The men shout, dogs barking. They catch her near the edge of town. The minister arrives, red faced, shouting about sin and obedience. You stay back, pretending to clean your lens. She is dragged back to the church. The wedding continues as if nothing happened. You are asked to photograph her again, this time standing beside her husband, a bouquet of wildflowers pressed into her hand. The bruise on her neck is brighter now. The flowers are already wilting. The other women do not protest. They move through the motions of the day, standing, kneeling, holding hands with strangers. Some of them cry, others are silent, eyes fixed on the horizon. One bride vomits behind the church, wiping her mouth with the sleeve of her dress before posing for her portrait. You photograph each woman, each couple, each forced moment of joy. The men smile for the camera, some with missing teeth, some with blackened eyes from fights the night before. The women look away. Some refuse to meet your gaze, turning their faces to the ground. The camera does not lie, but it does not tell the truth either. It records what is there, not what is felt. By evening, the celebrations turn sour. The men drink too much, shouting and singing off key. A fight breaks out in the street. Two men arguing over a bottle or a woman. It hardly matters. You step back, clutching your camera, protecting your plates. Someone throws a punch, someone else throws up. The stench of whiskey and blood fills the air. In the darkness, you develop the day's photographs. The fumes from the chemicals burn your eyes. You see the faces of the brides, blurred and tired, eyes empty. You wonder how many of them will survive the winter, how many will be gone by spring. The camera cannot answer. Your tent is cold that night. You wrap yourself in a blanket and listen to the sounds of celebration turn to sobbing, then silence. In the morning, you see one of the brides walking alone by the river, dress muddy, hair undone. She does not look up as you pass. You pack your camera, wrap the glass plates in rags, and prepare to leave. The minister thanks you for your service, pays you in coins sticky with sweat. He tells you that you have done good work, that you have captured the spirit of the West. You do not answer. You leave the settlement behind, walking into a sunrise that feels more like an ending than a beginning. The road is long and the world is wide, and you are just a man with a box full of shadows and faces that will never be remembered. You are a photographer. You record what is seen, not what is suffered. You walk on, heavy with glass and silence. You return to the place where you started, though it is not the same. Towns on the edge of the world have a habit of becoming ghosts while your back is turned. The road curves in a familiar way, the ruts deeper now, the weeds thicker, the milestones more like headstones. The sign with the town's name has rotted and fallen, and even the wind seems unsure which direction to blow. Last Mercy. You had once thought the name was a cruel joke. Now you know it is only the truth, plain and blunt as the stones in the graveyard. When you left, the place was half alive, with enough children's laughter and drunk men's curses to make it feel inhabited. Now silence has moved in, heavy as winter. Your tent goes up in the same spot as before, a patch of dust between what remains of the undertaker's shop and the sun-bleached planks of the old saloon. The air is still thick with the memory of old gunpowder and sweat. You pause before the saloon's door, peering through the cracked glass, half expecting to see the regulars. Big Sam, old Maggie, the piano player with only 7 fingers. But inside, there is only broken furniture and a piano that no longer remembers any songs. On your first morning, you walk through the town, taking a silent roll call of the living and the dead. There are more boarded windows than open ones. The blacksmith shop is empty, the forge cold. The general store is locked, a sign on the door written in shaky letters, "Gone for good." You see one man, old, stooped, wearing a coat that could have belonged to your father or your son. He does not look up. Your steps take you to the church. The doors are open, swinging on their hinges, letting in the dust and the flies. Inside, the pews are warped. The altar is bare. There are no candles, only the faint outline where a cross once hung. You stand in the empty aisle, holding your camera, unsure what to photograph. Memory, perhaps. Loss. Absence. Each day feels longer than the one before. You take to wandering the outskirts, searching for any sign of the world you remember. The cemetery has grown. There are more stones, most unmarked, some with only a first name, some with nothing at all. You count the graves, speaking the names aloud, as if that might keep them from slipping away completely. On the third day, you hear the sound of laughter. It startles you, sharp as a rifle shot. You follow it to the edge of town, to a patch of dusty earth where a boy sits in the shade of a dead tree. He is thin, eyes wide, skin pale beneath the sun. You remember him or someone like him, a baby swaddled in blankets, held up to your camera by a nervous mother who wanted to remember him before the world got to him. Now he is the last child, or so it seems. He asks you to take his photograph. His voice is steady, too old for his body. You hesitate. The glass plates are almost gone. The chemicals are thick with age, slow to pour, reluctant to do their work. Still, you set up your camera, asking him to sit in the sunlight. He squints, but does not complain. He holds a broken toy in one hand, a wooden husk that's paint chipped and its tail missing. You take the photograph, holding your breath as you count the seconds. You hope for a small miracle, that the image will come out clear, that his face will not blur into the background, that he will not disappear between shutter and plate. When you pour the developer, the boy watches closely, eyes never leaving your hands. The image appears, slow as sunrise. He grins when he sees it, only for a second, but it is enough. He asks if he can keep the picture. You promise to give it to him, though you know you will never see him again. That night, you sit outside your tent, staring up at a sky empty of stars. The fire is little more than a glow. You think about all the people you have photographed: prospectors, brides, soldiers, children, the living and the dead. You wonder where the pictures are now, lost in trunks, burned for kindling, buried with their owners. Most of them are gone, like the faces they captured. Only the stains on your hands remain. In the morning, you wake to find the boy gone. His footprints lead away from the tree, out toward the hills, swallowed by the grass. You do not follow. There is nothing left to find. You begin to pack. Each item feels heavier than before. The tripod, its legs scored with the scratches of 100 camps. The camera, its bellows soft with wear. The bottles, some empty, some nearly so, all coated in a crust of what once was silver. You break down your tent, folding it into a bundle, wrapping the last few glass plates in your coat. You leave behind the chair, the sign, and the basin, cracked now, a reminder of how even the simplest things fall apart. Before you go, you take one last photograph. The town at dawn, empty street, leaning buildings, the wind moving a shutter just enough to make you doubt your eyes. You set the exposure, standing perfectly still, hands steady despite the ache in your bones. This picture is not for anyone. It is for you, a memory of an ending, proof that you were here, that the world was real once, even if only for a little while. You burn what you cannot carry. The chemicals, their labels long since smeared and unreadable, go into the fire. The leftover plates crack and hiss, releasing the ghosts trapped inside. The smoke rises, thick and black, curling into the pale morning. You watch until your eyes water, until you can no longer tell whether you are crying for the town, for yourself, or for something else entirely. You sling the empty camera case over your shoulder. The mule is gone, wandered off, or taken in the night. It does not matter. You walk away on foot, the road open before you, the sun rising behind you like an accusation. You are a photographer, that is all. You carry the weight of what you have seen, the shadows pressed into glass, the memories that refuse to fade. You walk on, and the world closes behind you, erasing your footprints with every breath of wind. In the end, there is only silence.